And up against who else? Nathan Finnegan, who still has not ended his charge. 25th to 13th. He's gonna hold the inside, go defensive on Trangarade, but Trangarade is deeper into the corner, a little too deep. No, he keeps it from going off course with a big slide.
Brings it down. Whoa! Wants to break away again, just playing footsie with that yellow line and able to hold on to it.
5, 6, 7, 7.5. That is about a second quicker. But Davis is coming through, and Davis is easily by. Kwok Ninh is not quite easily by. They're side by side, and now it's going to be a drag race as they come through. A lost sight of Kwok Ninh, and it seems that Kwok Ninh is going to try and lose sight of Davis as he's going to make the overtake here. He's got the inside down into turn 3, and he's through. 110 miles an hour up the hill. Now it looks like New Hook is going to back out of it. Still, even with the push, this is looking tough for Larson, and Day hangs it around the outside. That's not easy in Griffins.
No, it's not, and now they're going to come down into the cutting where Raymond Day will have the preferred line. They try to hold on to it there. This is where we saw Boucher spin earlier, able to keep it both back under him. They continue to be side by side up the hill.
Wow, this is tough stuff from both of them, neither willing to give it up.
Into the wall goes Handsome Pete. It's down to 3 cars for the race win. Solo, Cope, and Campbell. Who will make the move first? Campbell makes the duck. Cope with the duck. The block. The dive. The second block. Thomas Cope to the inside. Will Campbell get a run back? To the checker flag. Thomas Cope wins the Daytona 500.
Waiting for that cone. This is gonna be close between the two, and I'm not sure who's it gonna be at the exit. They're gonna be side by side coming out of the pits. Daly chucking that car around the outside, trying to see if there's a little bit of speed, but Romig has it for now.
Oh, but they've got that run down the straight. If there was somebody watching a monitor for him, telling him what he can do, hey, try to pull that Loyola move, but he doesn't do it. He stays on the outside with a defensive move, pushing just a little bit too far. Got some tire smoke as they come off of Charlotte's Web, heading down that straightaway into the museum turn.
And it's going to be a drag race here in a battle of the late breakers between Romig and Daly. Daly diving onto the binders.
Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced SimRacing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client. And like we did today, we install a D-Box system. We install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much gonna be a turnkey. So he's gonna press start on his computer, and right after, we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware, and that's why we want to create something that's really gonna reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
For years, the Daytona road course was only tackled by NASCAR drivers if they fancy to go with the famed 24-hour enduro. And though many did dip their toes, it still left the majority of them without getting to experience the unique Roval's infield. Recently, NASCAR changed that and decided to unleash the roaring stock cars onto the twisty 3.5 miles. Today, our competitors will do the same as we get ready to watch Round 8 of the PRL NASCAR Cup Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Daytona's road course is well known by road racing fans the world over, but for our oval crowd, let's take a closer glance at this version of the famous superspeedway. Welcome to the Daytona International Speedway. While many oval fans associate this Central Florida track with mainly NASCAR, the road course has gained just as much worldwide fame thanks to it hosting motorcycles and sports cars for decades. In fact, the flagship road race, the 24 Hours of Daytona, has become a major draw for drivers of all disciplines, many eager to have a go at endurance racing. The stats make this place sound relatively simple, with 12 corners on the regular road circuit and 14 on the NASCAR version, both spread amongst 3.5 miles. Indeed, a majority of the lap is spent on the oval portion, where you fly along the notoriously steep banking. But it's easy to underestimate the challenge presented to the drivers. The infield portion begins with the scary kink entry of Turn 1. Not only is it the fastest part of the track, but the transition from the banking to the flat tends to upset the car as you slow it down. There's also the bus stop chicane on the backstretch. Added in the 80s, this is a tricky piece of circuit that punishes a poor exit severely, with it leading back into the latter half of the oval. As you'd expect, the long periods on throttle mean that drafting tends to play a factor in the racing. It also means passing isn't usually too great of an issue if you have the pace to catch someone. The more difficult thing is managing to gap your opponent so that they don't ride in your slipstream once you get by. With half a century of endurance racing collected among these walls, it's not unfair to say that road racers have just as much claim to call Daytona home. Fans who come to watch certainly won't be disappointed by the high speeds and fantastic thrills it invariably provides each year. Well, Adam, last month we got our fill of the road course here, but this is slightly different. It's the NASCAR version of it. How is this going to fare?
Well, not only is the NASCAR version a little bit different, the cars they're tackling this are completely different as well. This is the NASCAR Daytona International Speedway road course with 14 turns and 3.57 miles or 5.745 kilometers long. And it adds a final chicane at the end of NASCAR Turn 4. This final chicane has been long talked about. It features two turtle curves that are really difficult to dodge, one on the inside of the first kink and one on the inside of the second. That's really hard to exit out of. Makes it very, very challenging to do. Now, since we came here last with most of our series, they've changed the bus stop chicane and renamed it Le Mans as part of a solidarity campaign with the Le Mans Speedway in France. And this makes a very interesting renaming and also promotes the relationship between the tracks. Now, as far as the relationship between the cars that race on this track, these NASCAR machines in their next-gen format is a little bit better on the road due to its underside downforce as well as its lower center of gravity. But that being said, the new tires have a little bit less ply in them. They're a little bit stiffer, and which makes them a little bit more prone to snapping out from under the drivers under heavy load. So coming off of corners, going through some of the higher speed corners throughout this track, especially Le Mans, is going to cause these drivers problems. Joe, a lot of the drivers tonight are going to have to be very careful not to foul afoul of some of those incident points that we're concerned about.
Absolutely. And before we get to the racing, we want to mention that our broadcast is brought to you by ASR. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com.
It's also sponsored by RaceLab. RaceLab helps you to improve your driving skills with modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration. You can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com.
And finally, the PRL NASCAR Cup Series is brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance.
Let's take a look at the championship. Obviously, we're not able to cover the last round at Kentucky, but it changed things up as Acosta has jumped back up to the lead ahead of O'Brien, and only 6 points split them. This has remained so close here into the latter stages of the season. Josh Daniels not too far back, but has got to start making some inroads. He's got Richard Regan Jr., who's been very fast since he showed up in these next-gen cars. And then we've got Chris Hudson, just 8 points behind him, round out the top 5. What about in the teams championship?
Well, private label team Hype, 50 points out in front of Dirty South Racing. That's not yet a full race lead ahead of Dirty South, but it's a pretty decent gap, especially considering their consistency over the course of the season. But look at private label team Hype Black, just 5 points behind Dirty South Racing. So that's a very close battle. And then another 45 points back of that is going to be SGE eSports Slipstream, still in the fight, but they've got a little bit of work to do, followed closely by Car Ramrod, only about 14 points back of them. So still very tight for the 4th and the 2nd positions, and still not out of the realm of possibility for any of these teams to take the championship.
Indeed. And for today's race, it's obviously a little bit different. Now, it's not too fewer of laps than we're used to, 38 of them that they're going to have to cycle around here. And they still have 5 total tire sets. Not really a talking point, but I will say last time, or one of the more recent times we saw them at a road course, we did see drivers up at the front taking multiple stops because they had a gap and were trying for the fastest lap. We'll see if that erupts again. It is still a fixed setup, so at least they don't have to try and do anything there on these cars to get them faster around the road course. But they also have no spare cars, so if they damage them, which is going to be easy to do around here, they will not be able to just pop in for a fresh one. And how about that incident limit? 24 incident limit, and slightly different this time, 12 incident limit for a drive-through penalty that the drivers have to watch out for. And those can rack up very quick, especially considering the 2 chicanes that they're going to have to deal with here today. They'll find themselves susceptible to getting them there on those. As we come around for our first lap here in qualifying, they'll get 4 laps, as they usually only have 2 on the oval side, 4 here on the road course, but they only have 10 minutes. And considering it's just under 2 minutes to get around, they've basically got to go flat out from the word go, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to get all 4 of those laps in, you've really got to get going right now. And we're seeing James O'Brien do exactly that, coming through the NASCAR Speedway section right now on a 136 and flying. So he's going to approach that final chicane. This is the added chicane for those of you who are familiar with the regular road course. Those of you who have watched NASCAR in the last couple seasons have seen this happen. And James O'Brien taking a fairly conservative approach through there. We have a couple times coming in. Trent Dinkel, Taylor Burris, and Chris Hudson And it looks like James O'Brien just starting his flying lap. Nope, he sets a time third fastest.
Yeah, Chris Hudson was up at the top briefly before Dinkle was able to take that pole away. Now, I am seeing cars that are stopping on the track, taking a tow, and getting back out. I suspect this is due to the tires. These tires still seem to go away pretty quickly. I wonder if it's not worth them trying the second, third, and fourth lap on an old set here, Adam.
Well, it's not tire wear, it's tire heat that is the real problem. Honestly, during the race, going slow and steady might actually get you a little bit more length to your tire stints, because the tires are actually fairly strong, but the issue is that they heat up very quickly and they stay hot, and that's because of how strong and sturdy they are and how not pliable they are. So honestly, all the ways that they change the compound going into this season is really affecting how the drivers have to manage their gear over the course of the race. But for qualifying, absolutely, I would do one, park it, and then do a second one and call that a day. Maybe take the third if I'm feeling lucky.
Pat Harvey actually has failed to set a time yet. He just came across and looked like he's only starting his first flyer, so that'll really give him, I think, a single lap potentially to try and get a time in, unless he does keep on those old tires. Richard Regan Jr., oh, his first lap got deleted as well. The 46 is going to have to try hard here to come around and get this one hot, because he's not pulling over, so he's got to hope that those tires have held out. So we have Harvey and Regan Jr. Looks like Jose Medina is staying in pit lane, so he is not going to be taking a lap at all. I see Brandon Walter coming around here for Team Hype down to the line. Let's see if he continues on after this lap as he crosses, and it's another lap that did not count. There are some names that are under the gun today.
Yeah, one name that's under the gun that actually isn't really here to answer for it. I think you might have mentioned this before, Joe, but Abner Acosta is not here today.
And he's usually very strong on the roadside.
Absolutely. He's coming off of 3 straight wins. He's not here to defend, and he's not that far ahead of James O'Brien in the points. This is going to be very interesting for the points championship. Look at the focus right now on Dinkle's face right now. He's got some work to do, Trent Dinkle. He's in the lead right now by 8/10, and he's still out there turning laps.
Clearly, he has got this car figured out on the roadside. 8/10 is massive, even on a 2-minute lap. That's incredible stuff. I'm watching Pat Harvey come through the final chicane right now and to the line. It looks like he is still a little slow on this lap, if I'm seeing correctly. And he gets a 57.7 in. That's actually good enough for 8th. That's not bad. That'll put him up towards the front of the pack here at the start. Josh Conker not going to set a time as well, so one of our usually quick drivers finds himself a little bit behind the 8 ball as we now watch to see what Richard Regan has underneath. A 55.3. That'll put him onto the second row.
Yeah, okay, so the interesting part is that turn 1 into on this road course is a real challenge in the braking zone for any sort of class or car, but especially these NASCAR vehicles. When you see these guys go too wide and line up for the start of this race, it's going to be really interesting in the braking down to turn 1. Richard Regan Jr. is going to be second car on the inside if all stays as is on the qualifying right now, and that is actually a pretty advantageous position. It's going to be Matthew Long who's going to be a little concerned on the outside right now as we stand right now with 1 minute 30 left to go in qualifying.
Walter gets 12th place with that 57.9, but I think that might be his qualifying over, because they don't get to complete hot laps either here, even if they do feel like they could do something a little bit better. I am seeing almost no improvement until James O'Brien puts one down, and that's good news for him. He'll be on the front row. He's fighting for a championship here, and he needed that.
Fantastic work from James O'Brien to get up there into that second position. That's exactly the lap he needed. He's going to park it and call it a qualifying session. He wouldn't have had time to get back to the line anyway. Taking a look now again at Richard Regan Jr. as he's approaching the Le Mans chicane on the backstretch. You can see just how much they've widened that out, and there's that turtle curve on the inside and the outside of the exit corners, and that is absolutely something you have to be careful of. These cars could pick up splitter damage, and they can also fly off of those turtle curves if you're not careful.
Pat Harvey didn't set a time, so I think Regan's going to be our last one with an opportunity. He's got a pretty decent one down there with that 55.3. So I'm doubtful on this second lap that we're going to see something much faster, but his timing shows that he's actually pacing well here. Let's see. And it is faster by 0.2. That is shocking. That'll take the front row away from O'Brien.
Wow, fantastic work for Richard Regan Jr. to put together a really quick lap for that second time around. That'll take us to the grid.
Indeed. Trent Dinkle will start from the pole, and Richard Regan Jr. somehow finds his way close to him, at least closer to him there in second. James O'Brien will be P3 as Matthew Long starts from fourth, and Ryan Goodell is P5. Josh Daniels, 6 for him, followed by Chris Hudson, briefly held the pole. He got slotted down to 7th. Skip Gandy starts 8th today. It's Pat Harvey in 9th and Adam Zemke rounding out your top 10.
Taylor Burris is going to start off in 11th position, just outside the top 10. Alongside him is going to be Brandon Walter in 12th. Row 7 is going to go to Byron McDonald with Mike Witt in the 14th spot. Waldo Walden's going to line up at 15th with Carlos Romero in 16th position. Those are the last of your drivers to set qualifying times. Drivers who did not set qualifying times. Big names down here. Josh Conker in 17th, Charles Sumner 18th, Eric Papanow in 19th position, and Lou Christensen in the 20th spot. Then we have Baron Hilton, Jose Medina, and Tom Massey rounding out your 23 car field.
So not the biggest we've seen here in the NASCAR Cup Series, the PRL NASCAR Cup Series, but certainly plenty for a road course to give us some fun. Before we get to racing, we want to mention our sponsor. Make sure and check out the Majors Garage, home of free Baseline Plus setups. Get help from any of the garage coaches 24/7. Sign up now for awesome, affordable monthly subscriptions, telemetry, coaching, and more by simply clicking on our link in the description below. Also, if you use our special discount code, Majors GSRC, you'll get 10% off. So let's see how they fare out there today under this 81-degree weather in the air, 101 on the track. You mentioned preserving those tires being one of the important things today. I got to think trying to keep from spinning the wheels as they get on the throttle going to be a major part of who is good by the end of the race.
Absolutely, and it starts right at the start of the race because this is iRacing road course racing. There will not be full course cautions on this race course because PRL is running by the standard iRacing rule set. So that means once the green flag flies, it's on you and you alone to not only take care of that car, but to take care of those tires and to make sure not to make any mistakes that are going to cost you valuable seconds.
Absolutely, and they're going to single file out briefly here before they line back up. Now, unlike real life, they're going to have to go through that chicane here on the start. So that's going to be a little tricky, and it might actually give Dinkle a good opportunity in that 501 to scamper away before anybody can attack him into turn 1. Whenever you have a chicane right at the start or a corner right at the start of the race here, Adam, on these road courses, it's a big advantage for the leader.
Absolutely, it's a big advantage for the leader. But that being said, it's possible that the PRL has instituted a gentleman's agreement not to start before they're lined up on the front straightaway. But that's a real challenge considering how close this chicane is to the green flag. So let's see what happens with Trent. It looks like he's gone already.
Not quite. The pace car's not in. Now it's in. And he is going to hold, so he is going to wait. Now the green flag is out, and he is on it. And unfortunately, this allows Regan Jr. to stay right with him as we come down into the first turn. Richard is looking strong under braking. Down to the left-hander, he holds tight, but now he has to give way. Behind him, James O'Brien glancing but not able to overtake. Little bit of double file as they exit the first turn, but otherwise we're clean.
Yeah, it's time to be calm and smooth to start this race. I know you think you could get a lot of positions, but you're going to heat up your tires. You need those things for the duration of this race. 38 laps is a long time around here in these NASCAR machines. These guys have got to be real gentle. It's side by side up in front between Chris Hudson and Ryan Goodell as they go through the kinks so tight as they head towards the horseshoe. Such tight racing.
Hudson 2 wheels into the grass, and he still somehow manages to get it woed up. A little bit of contact behind him as you saw some of that smoke from the lockup. Not sure who that was, but this battle carries on. Hudson and Goodell.
Josh Conker's gone around in the background with, I believe that was Mike Witt and Baron Hilton, who's off. Jose Medina's also gone off. So all of our big names who did not set qualifying times have spun off in the background.
I wonder if that's related to the lockup that I saw and the contact. I'm checking to see. It looks like that was initially between, Conker and Witt.
That was messy.
It did, unfortunately, cause a few weathers to spin. Nobody else made contact, but in trying to avoid, they just lost control. Wow, Conker's got a big hill to climb from there, but it is Dinkel who is leading as we check out the replay. So that's Conker there in the 54.
Oh, that's interesting. So it looks like Mike Witt didn't expect Conker to be there, and he's just... I mean, it didn't look like either of them tried to avoid that once it started.
It certainly seemed like it. It was a little sloppy, especially for the very first lap of the race. Oh, wow. That gap was never going to stay there. That was going to close. And just unfortunately could not get out of the 26 and keep from pushing him because the car is just too heavy to slow down as we come back into the first turn once again, and Sumner making a move down there.
Absolutely, Sumner making some moves. He's made a move on Burris, and look at how tight they are going through turn 1 and through the next couple sectors just past the pit exit. Great move there from the 98 to make we've got a spinner. Is this going to make contact with Sumner? Oh, he keeps it off the line. Great job to make sure not to come back online and spear everybody there.
And there was further problems. That was Burris who had the first accident, and Papineau you saw sideways, who once again taking and avoiding action, it seems, mid-corner is just going to send the car spiraling out of control because Papineau nearly turned himself around and just trying to stay out of the way of the 40. Boy, it has certainly been a wild start to this race, and look at how much this has helped Trent Dinkel. He is nowhere to be seen, and Regan Jr. is all of 1.5 seconds behind.
1.5 seconds, 1.7 seconds about. And James O'Brien's actually starting to approach Richard Regan. So Richard Regan's single lap pace on that final run through qualifying might not be holding here as we get in under race pace. Now, for those drivers that did spin, first off, it's really easy to spin the rear tires in these next-gen machines because of the way that the new tire is working with these machines for sure. And also, those guys who have spun the tires already are going to be dealing with hot rear tires for the rest of this race. Looks like Charles Sumner has fallen afoul of Josh Conker now, as Sumner gets passed by Conker coming out of Le Mans and into the... we've had another incident here.
That's Papineau again. Wonder if that's those hot tires you mentioned, because it was through the bus stop. And, now Le Mans chicane. And unfortunately, the 45 found the wall with that spin.
And that's at least 6 incidents points, Joe, because he's been spun around 3 times.
That's a good point.
So he's going to have to be careful for the rest of this race, and we're only on lap 3.
Yeah, and contact with the wall as well, as we watch coming out of the International Horseshoe. Who is that? Almost
Goodell.
Spinning.
It's Ryan Goodell almost spinning off of the horseshoe, so he's able to get going. Looks like Baron Hilton's gone around as well. Trying to get power down is really challenging tonight, Joe.
I had to drive that lap for the track guide that you saw before we came here to the racing, and side by side now between Matthew Long to the inside and Josh Daniels to the outside. Daniels has to give up the ghost onto that one. I drove those laps that you saw in the next gen car, and I got to tell you, I could not make that second chicane no matter how hard I tried. And I'm amazed they're doing as good as they are in these things. For being better at the road courses, they are diabolical.
Yeah, these cars are just such a challenge, and it's the way that the weight transfer works with the tire, and especially these guys. Remember, the PRL Cup Series this year is running fixed setups, so these guys don't get to adjust this thing to drive how they like, so they're just driving what's given to them. And that makes this all the more impressive, to be honest with you. Matthew Long still ahead of Joshua Daniels, who tried to make a move into the Le Mans chicane. Couldn't quite do it. Is he going to think about it into the NASCAR chicane? The answer is no. Matthew Long, though, a little squirrely under the brakes. Joshua Daniels a little more conservative. Can he get a better exit this time? The answer is kind of yes. I don't know if that's good enough to get him through one, though.
He's going to have to really dive it in. That'd be a bit risky here, especially since he seems quicker than the 28 right now. I'd say wait for a slam dunk pass if I was him, as they both slide into turn one. They've also got Chris Hudson back there in the 43, still holding on. Sounds like Waldo Walden has now had a problem, and that's coming through the NASCAR chicane. He has found the wall.
Yeah, he took it way too deep under braking, was not braking in a straight line, and the rear end just came around on him, unfortunately, and that was a heavy hit. Josh Conker and Ryan Goodell looks like they have been trading a little bit of paint.
And just as we went away from the 77, he did manage to get by Matthew Long into the International Horseshoe. So now Josh Daniels up to 4th. And Conker's not doing too bad considering the rough start that he had, as we now ride on board with him. Looking up ahead at Brandon Walter. Here's his onboard cam. And look at how hard his hands are working, sawing away at the wheel.
What's interesting is to see the difference between himself and Trent Dinkle and see how different their driving styles are, because Conker is up on the wheel sliding that thing around the whole way around, and Dinkle looks so smooth, such smooth hands on the wheel. And I mean, Conker's quick, no doubt about that. His last lap was a 155.6 versus Dinkle's 155.1, and Dinkle's in clear air. And the 155.6 from Josh Conker is his fastest lap, and 154.6 from Dinkle is his fastest. Look at this. Conker, though, better run through the Le Mans chicane to go underneath Brandon Walter and try and make a move into the NASCAR chicane.
Say, now go side by side. There you go. Conker with yet another one. Up to the top 10 now. So, yeah, he's fast, but I wonder how well those tires will last. Him putting so much wheel into it. Behind him, a pass into the NASCAR chicane. Walter has to get out of it as Goodell gets him into there. That is rare.
Yeah, Walter was it seemed like he got a little spooked from Goodell, absolutely diving it down to the NASCAR chicane. That's going to put Walter under threat for Brian McDonald now.
So McDonald's in 13th in that number 8 machine as they come down into the first turn. Hard to hit that apex in these cars, it looks like. Just can't seem to get down to that inside line, and somebody's had a problem. Looks like Walden this time before he got to the chicane. No, it's after again. Excuse me.
And Brandon Walter has had a spin through the horseshoe, so. Oh boy, lots of drivers really struggling with that traction today, Joe.
Walden's still stationary, too. What is happening out there?
I think he might be having a technical issue.
Yeah, I think so. I think you might be right, and we'll try and catch up on that in a bit, see if we can suss out what's caused him to come to a halt. Thankfully, again, no cautions here on the roadside, and he's off the racing line, so he is safe. As we watch Richard Regan Jr., who, unfortunately for him, is losing touch with Trent Dinkle. Instead, James O'Brien is creeping ever closer to that 46.
Interestingly enough, last lap, O'Brien was 0.3 slower than Regan Jr., but this lap, it looks like Regan's made a mistake and brought O'Brien right back into play. He's only 0.5 back now as they brake for NASCAR chicane, and look at how much he's making up under braking there.
O'Brien's looking pretty good at this stage, but we're still so early in this race, only 5 laps into 38 around here. Wonder if this is Regan maybe managing the tires a little bit, or is O'Brien the one who managed them better at the very start? Now he's reaping the rewards.
That'll be interesting to see for sure, as O'Brien looks like he's intent on making it past Richard Regan soon. He's actually driving the wheels off of that thing right now. I'm seeing him getting some decent slip angle on these tires through some of the faster corners. You could see the nose of that car just wagging back and forth as he's trying to grab grip, and so he's definitely pushing to try and get up there to Richard Regan Jr.
As they come through the kink, and you can see how much the cars slide from this angle as they now head through the Western Horseshoe. And oh, the tail still trying to kick out from underneath Richard Regan Jr. as he's going to spin up a little bit more of that rubber, overheat it. Now on to NASCAR 1 and 2 through the oval portion. And he continues to abuse those tires underneath him.
Yeah, absolutely. And It looks like James O'Brien's doing a similar thing behind him, but Richard Regan Jr., you got to remember that the most important places to get a good run off of the corner, to get good exits, are onto the NASCAR onto the NASCAR banking on both ends of the track. So especially through here, the Le Mans chicane, you can see how conservative Richard Regan is on entry, so he can get a straighter shot on exit. James O'Brien not quite as clean.
And what's going to be all the more interesting as this race goes on is they're getting close to already catching lap traffic up at the very front. So that could be something that could catch a few people out, especially for those drivers who aren't as familiar with how to deal with lapping lead cars as they come by. Is a great exit here from O'Brien. Is Regan just going to let him have it? He does not defend. The 9 gets the inside coming down into turn 1. And indeed, early braking from Richard Regan Jr. moved James into the second spot.
Yeah, Richard Regan Jr. onto those turtle curbs. So unfortunately for him, lost all the ability to put down the power coming out of the NASCAR chicane. So that's really, really challenging. And it looks like we're hearing that Baron Hilton's already at 11 incidents himself. So these drivers who've been pushing really hard and having some slips at the back are really starting to pay the price as far as it comes to the incident points.
Yeah, Taylor Burris as well only had his first incident-free lap last time around. And so he's at least at 5 incidents now.
Well, you say that, but he actually slid through NASCAR chicane. There we see another problem for the 57. This is Adam Zemke, who had an issue in the horseshoe.
So he's down to 10th now as he's approached by Goodell behind him there. You see in the right, white and red. And entering the western horseshoe. Both of them trying to get the power down as soon as they possibly can. Let's take a look at what happened to Zemke here.
Trying to be a little defensive there.
Ooh. Goes in the grass, and around she goes.
Didn't brake quite early enough there, and it's so hard to judge if you're not used to these cars and who is on these road courses right now. These things are a bear to drive on the road courses. I'm wondering whether or not Goodyear's going to make some sort of compound adjustment for the road courses in the future, because this seems like a real hassle for these drivers to try and get it around. I mean, like, granted, this really proves their talent, but man, it's a real challenge out there.
I hope they do, because I was shocked at how tough it is. I felt like they felt tougher than the old Cup cars to race here on road courses. And there you saw the 501 leading the way. Richard Regan Jr.'s not giving up on this P2 yet. He is sticking with O'Brien this time around. Stays within a couple tenths across the line. You're going to weave through this little chicane here that takes you into the infield, braking hard on the left-hand side, coming down into the International Horseshoe. Both of them having to bring it all the way down to that rumble strip and then get on the throttle once again. But look at how solid the 9 is. He pulls away.
Absolutely, the 9 just so strong on the brakes. You can see it every time they go into a braking zone. Richard Regan Jr. falling back a little bit. This time, though, look at this. Into the next horseshoe turn, we got a really great run there.
Sounds like the 12 incidents has been met by Baron Hilton. He's already being shown the black flag for a drive-through. Oh. That's way wide for the 9 now. O'Brien pushing the limits of the track himself. And Richard Regan Jr. is going to get a great slipstream, but does he dare try and attack into Le Mans?
It's going to be a risk. I don't think we've seen anyone try and make that move today. So here comes Richard Regan Jr. Doesn't look like he's interested. He is staying in line with James O'Brien. He's going to break a little early there, try and pressure Brian into a mistake. Brian, though fairly conservative himself through the chicane. Can Richard Regan Jr. get a better exit and try and challenge him? No, he slides the rear tires just a little bit on exit, manages to keep it going, but that's going to be his opportunity lost.
I got to confess, I don't know what the optimal strategy is in terms of pit stops. Often it is just to take a single stop here. But if I'm out there on this track, I'm starting to think maybe I should attempt to split it into thirds just to try and give myself a better shot at getting to the end, as that was a great run through the NASCAR chicane from Richard.
Absolutely. Is he going to try and do it into one? This is a decent place to make a pass. It always has been historically, but he breaks early yet again, trying to get James O'Brien to make the mistake himself first. They're closing up on Jose Medina, lapped car, currently in 22nd position.
It's going to stay out of the way and off to the side. Nice move there from the 24. Closing in from Regan. He's looking mighty good there into the International Horseshoe, now into the kink once again, but this is a strong point right here. O'Brien, each time we followed, looks like he extends the gap back to the 46, and that puts him too far away to attack here into the Western Horseshoe.
And Richard Regan Jr. is really taking a lot out of his tires through the faster sections of this course. You can see he's really pushing through the kink there, and that's going to make it very difficult on his tires towards the end of this run. But James O'Brien's weakness is this exit out of the infield section. You can see just how hard it is to get the traction down. Richard Regan Jr. tried to take a more of a straight, tight line, and he couldn't get the traction down either, so they end up about equidistant as they come out.
And uses me the differences that need to be adjusted to as drivers change disciplines. So we, as they lapped the car of Medina, he called out he's going to stay high, and I thought to myself, what's high? You're on a road course and it's flats.
Yep. No, I was wondering that too. And so when he went to the right, I was like, I mean, okay, high, inside was what
He made
how do we
it clear,
define
and that's
this?
the important thing. He
Said he was going to get out of the way, and that's what they understood.
Yeah. So at least he got out of the way. But as they came down here into the NASCAR chicane, will we see Regan once again find a better exit? No, last time was a bit of an anomaly, and O'Brien keeps himself safe as they pick up speed across the line. Now coming down to lap 10 as they break into the first corner. This has been only about 2.5 seconds ahead of Josh Daniels. I know we haven't seen a whole lot of him, but he's not that far behind if they start to tangle.
No, but someone who's really far ahead is Trent Dinkel. As these two have been fighting, when they started fighting, Trent Dinkel was out to about 3 seconds. The gap is 10 seconds now, Joe. 10 seconds from Trent Dinkel back to James O'Brien. Trent's almost, I mean, if he keeps his pace up, in another 10 laps time, he'll have a full pit stop on these guys.
And I gave the commentator's curse to Josh Daniels again. He outbraked himself into the Western Horseshoe, lost a spot to Long. And in fact, Hudson wanted to take another one, and a big slide out of the 77. I can't believe he's still got that spot.
Yeah, 77, very, very good job to get the power down out of that once he got onto that slide. Chris Hudson trying his best to push the Joshua Daniels into another mistake. It's a real challenge for him to get, oh man, looks like he might have missed a little, I mean, I don't know how he missed a shift in this sequential box, but it looks like it seemed like he did coming out of the infield.
I guess he could still have an H-pattern shifter on his rig, and that could cause you to miss a shift potentially. But whatever the case, yeah, he went from being all over the tail of the 77 to suddenly a little bit farther behind and out of range. And Regan is back on it once again.
Yeah.
Look at this, under 0.2 of a second. It's hard to pass down into the NASCAR chicane, though, so he's going to stay put.
For the moment, let's see whether he gets a good exit. The answer is yes. This is his best shot. He's going to look to the inside as they head towards one.
He's got the inside. He's got to get the job done, though. The 9, will he let him have it? That's a big yes. He backed out of it. And Regan back up into P2, so swapping back and forth. They seem relatively equally skilled against each other today.
Yeah, the problem is with all this fighting, they're just heating their tires up more and more and losing tons more time to Trent Dinkel. Now, I think at this point, these two drivers might have resigned themselves to a second position unless Trent makes a mistake. Because, I mean, you're going to have to come into a pit stop, but so is Trent. And the guy's clearly, Trent Dinkel out in front with 11 seconds, is clearly keeping those tires well and good. But James O'Brien falling off by about a second now.
Ooh, we got a
nice battle for 5th and 6th and 7th right now. 3 cars, Matthew Long, Joshua Daniels, and Conker absolutely flying right now. He's been lapping faster than just about anybody right now, including our leader, Trent Dinkel.
Did Conker have to serve an EOL? Because I'm not seeing him on the list. because him not
No,
qualifying.
he was involved in that early incident in the chicane.
Well, no, but he
set a
didn't
qualifying
qualify.
time.
Yeah, and that's what I'm wondering about. Why did he not set a qualifying time? Clearly, he's got great pace, and he put himself at a disadvantage here, and then obviously put him susceptible to that opening incident. He's up to 6th already. If he had qualified, he maybe could have been fighting for the lead.
And I found the answer. Josh Conqueror did not serve his prior penalty at Kentucky, so he had to do an EOL. Just didn't catch that when I was taking a look at our penalties earlier.
So that's what caused that. And, well, I guess it wasn't up to him in that case. Let's see if he can get by Daniels here. He's looking at it. He's looking at it. Daniels doesn't defend. Tries to outbrake him. Too wide into here, and he manages it. Cuts back underneath as he puts the 77 offline, out accelerates him, and this might be job done down into 1.
Yeah, Josh Conqueror's going to put it hard on the brakes here, I think, into 1. That was a great move from Conqueror to push Long to make a mistake. Daniels rather is trying to pressure Conqueror into a mistake, but I mean, Conqueror, he's got to be feeling real confident right now. He's slid his way up a full 11 positions since that early incident, 12 since he started the race.
Unbelievable stuff. There we saw his onboard, and I'm hoping we can get a glance at Dinkle at some point to see how his steering prowess is. He's actually heading onto the oval portion now, so really not going to be able to see much there. And plus, we got a nice little battle between Daniels and Hudson still after Conquer just blasted past both of them within about a lap.
Ooh, good exit from Hudson here. Oh, I couldn't quite hold it. He was set up to take a look on the right side of Daniels. Couldn't quite hold on to it. Conquer makes a mistake there. Not going to be enough on one to cause Daniels to catch up to him, but that definitely made Chris Hudson think about it as he drove through some smoke there.
Indeed, and so far we've had one driver in for a pit stop, but it was not scheduled. Papineau, a minute and a half sitting in his stall. I wonder if he was taking some repairs for that one. So we've now watched, let's see, watch the hands here. Does look a lot smoother, a lot more intentional.
That's beautiful to watch. I've watched a lot of professional racing. I've watched a lot of sim racing. I'm seeing how smooth he is on the wheel. That's what these cars need to be fast. You think you want to wrestle it, but with how temperature sensitive these cars are, look at how smooth and calm he is. Barely any opposite steer there on the exit of the corner. A little bit of a catch at the curb there. Oh my goodness. Trent Dinkle, I mean, he may not look fast, but that adage slow is fast, it really rings true. He looks slow, but the dude's putting in some of the most blazing fast times out there.
Absolutely. It's the Alain Prost method. Just try and be as smooth as possible. Only win as fast as you need to go and not as fast as you want to go necessarily. Coming down through the Western Horseshoe and up to turn 6. Yeah, this is just looked fantastic out of him. But we'll watch and see.
Who is that spinning off?
That was Burris, or no, that was McDonald. McDonald getting lap and Burris coming up upon him. I think that was an incident coming into the NASCAR chicane, just lost control. Found himself into the safer barrier on the inside as we get side by side battling down into the first corner. McDonald once again going very wide. Burris will get another shot at it. He's much faster, but there's no place through, and he has to check up.
Oh, he's going to try and take a look on the inside. McDonald's going to turn in. Burris is going to lock up the tires. McDonald tries to avoid the incident. That's going to allow Burris to go through.
Burris up to 15th with that pass. Nicely done. Only on lap 13 here for these drivers. We're looking at lap 19 for the halfway mark of this race. Let's take one more look at what happened to the 8.
Yeah, this is a very simple incident. This is a downshift without a blip, causes the rear axle to lock up and hit the inside wall hard, Joe.
Yeah, and that was straight into it. Hopefully he doesn't have engine damage out of that.
That was hard hit.
Oof. Yeah, it's those sudden stops. Those are the ones that really do some serious damage. And
He did a good job to rejoin as safely as he could there, though.
Conker just overtook Long. That was for 4th place. He is picking him up and putting him down. This is an unbelievable display out of the 54.
Our timing and scoring is also a little bit unbelievable right now. It says Josh Conker's last lap was 7 seconds. I don't think that's true, but I know that he's setting very fast laps. His last couple were in the 57 range versus Trent Dinkel's 58.391. Josh Conker is right now 17.5 seconds behind Dinkel. I don't think he can make that up over the course of this race, but he might make his way up to second if we're not careful.
Yeah, and that's barring mistakes out of Trent too, because he could still make one, even though he's looked very confident out there up to this stage. Love this drone cam taking us around onto the oval here for Josh Conker. Can he run down James O'Brien, who is, we can say, I think now has actually lost touch with Richard Regan Jr. It's 2.3 seconds up to that 46 machine.
Yeah, we're starting to see everybody separate out a little bit here, and I believe we're about 14 laps in, so I mean, pit strategy depends on how bad you feel on your tires, but...
who's this off?
Oh, boy.
That,
split up that fast.
Think is Romero. Romero trying to get going.
It's harder than it looks.
And in fact, Jose Medina was one that was off, and there was contact between Lou Christian and Romero coming into that corner. So let's take a look. There was basically a few separate incidents happening here. There's Medina losing it on his own, and then this is going to be car contact.
So there's Medina hanging out. Then we got the 21 who does the same thing. And the 4 who tries to go to the inside. They make contact. And the 4 tries to spool it up and he spins his tires. Those rear tires are hot, Joe.
Yeah, I think there are some people who are suffering, no doubt. But we are just about to that halfway point, and it is going to be a sweet mercy to put some cold tires on after just a couple more runs around. Daniels versus Hudson here on screen. Daniels in the red, Hudson in the blue.
Yeah, Hudson's been closing very quickly on the brakes, but that means that he's not getting a good rotation through the center of the corner. But Daniels looking really struggling through the center himself. So Hudson's got really good opportunities here. He just needs to get a good exit at the right spot.
Could this be the one? Because he got a nice long stretch down into the Le Mans chicane. Doesn't look terribly great, but he is going to feel the slipstream as he starts to pick up the pace around the oval. It's about half a second up to that 77. Doesn't look likely that he'll have a chance to try and attack here.
We'll see whether or not he takes a late braking move into the Le Mans chicane here. Here we go. He's fairly conservative there, but Josh Daniels is a little shallow on entry. Gives him a decent exit, though, but Hudson's right on his tail.
That was what he was looking for. Now he should be able to start to reel him in, but it's a little bit of a shorter run. Coming up to the NASCAR chicane, he's going to look to the inside. He's going to think about it. Daniels does not cover off. He goes much later on the brakes, and that will keep him ahead for now.
Yeah, and he's able to get through that chicane just fine, so Hudson has to back off a little bit and re-rack and try and do it again.
You know, the thing that I find even tougher about that final chicane is the fact that you're braking as you're turning and coming off the banking. It's almost like a more extreme version of turn one.
Absolutely, and it's one of the most challenging turns that I've raced on. Now, granted, the banking can help you a little bit. It does mimic a tiny bit of that straight line braking effect because of the way that it helps you line up. While Chris Hudson, a little bit of a slip there through the horseshoe on exit. He's going to fall back from Josh Daniels a little bit more now.
Josh Conker is getting close to O'Brien here in a bit. There you can see the gap. It is a 1.5 seconds between them. Continuing to just chop away. Conquer last 3 laps, 57.5, 57.6, 57.7 versus O'Brien, 59.5, 58.8, 59.1. He's dropping almost a full second a lap here to his rival.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, I mean, there's not much O'Brien can do right now. He's just got to run his own race. He's got to hope that, I mean, honestly, one of the things I might do is see if I can hold up Conquer a little bit, and then when Conquer passes me, take my pit stop and see if I can just do a couple out laps to maybe pass him in the pits, you know, do an undercut. That might be your best opportunity. But with Conquer, as fast as he's been running, I mean, 1.5 seconds per lap, last lap, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I guess it will depend on if he feels like he can manage those tires with a little bit extra on them as they break into the NASCAR chicane once again. And he gets it down to about 0.9 of a second now. They cross the start-finish line, so doesn't happen there as he started to stall out a little bit. It was a 57.9. So the pace, interestingly, it's consistent, but it's consistently dropping off for Conquer.
Yeah, but I mean, he's still, I mean, Trent Dinkel and Josh Conquer were similar on lap time that time, only separated by about 5/100ths of a second that time around. Conquer with a 57.96 versus Dinkel's 58 flat. So this is very close times between Dinkel and Conquer at this point, but O'Brien still 1.5 seconds slower. So Conquer's going to have to get by O'Brien quickly if he wants to maintain the pace he's been running. And I think he'll be able to get him. Oh, not if he slides it like that.
I wondered how long his tires could put up with him being really rough with the wheel, and they finally cried enough. So the 54 now has some work to do. He didn't lose too much. It's about 2 seconds right now. Thankfully, it was not on the oval. He probably would have lost a lot more if he had spun him up there.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's going to lose him a ton of time. And it looks like we have one of our first regular pit callers. Mike Witt has come into the pits, and he missed his box, unfortunately, but he's taking tires and fuel.
So as he waits for that to top up, here comes our leader to put him a lap down potentially. And Witt actually has a long one, a very long one for the 26. What if he's taking some repairs? It's up to 24 seconds now.
Oh, he's got a black flag, so he might spit on entry.
Well, that is a bit of a shame to see. You're not supposed to pit under a black flag, though. You're supposed to drive through. So that could be giving him an extra bit of time as well. Look at this between Daniels and Hudson. Daniels is dealing with immense pressure from that number 43.
And he's been withstanding it well. Now, Hudson's got to get this done because he's been struggling. He's definitely quicker than Daniels on the raw pace, but he's been struggling to get up behind him. So he might not have as much practice following a car on this road course, which might make the braking points a little bit more challenging for him. But Hudson's got to get this job done because he is quicker than Daniels on raw pace.
Just about to that halfway point as well. So will we see anybody try to undercut by a lap? Will it be worth it too? Because as I was mentioning, watching the laps of Josh Conquer, there was a consistent fall off. Now, it is by about 1/10 a lap if you're going by Josh's performance, but that could still be an accurate read potentially, and that means that you could be susceptible if you pass early. We have a problem with Witt here. Not sure what happened with the 26. Oh, he spun up the tires off the International Horseshoe. Had to save it. And actually, he touched the grass coming off of the hairpin. And he had already settled the car. It was in good condition. And unfortunately, touching the grass is not the way to go here.
No, touching the grass is honest. I mean, it usually ends in a disaster. So the fact that he can keep the car going straight is quite a miracle. Now, as we're watching these two, Josh Conquer, well within a second of James O'Brien at this point, coming off of the NASCAR chicane. So I mean, Conquer absolutely steel on the brakes right now.
Looking
Only a
forward by-
158.4 though that lap, so he's that almost spin has cost him about half a second in lap time.
Ooh, yeah. So Conquer looking like he's paying the price here. And still not seeing drivers come in, maybe at the end of lap 19 instead. Out through the International Horseshoe and flying towards the kink. There's another little bobble out of the 54 as we watched him catch it from on board. Braking hard down into the Western Horseshoe. Little too far back this time. And they've got Jose Medina up in front of him. He could act as a pick depending on where they catch him. They're going to want the oval. That's going to be the easiest place to go by.
And that's going to actually benefit James O'Brien if they catch him on the oval. Jose Medina, though, really struggling on the exit. And he's going to stay offline. Conquer trying to get the power down, absolutely running up the rear tires, trying to get that done. Can't quite do so.
Okay, so off to the high side, letting them through. Nice patient racing there from our lapped cars, making sure to keep out of the way. And as we come down into the braking, O'Brien now seeing that 54 bigger and bigger in his mirrors. If this is a good exit, this could be a chance. It's decent, but I don't think that's good enough for a pass attempt.
I think it's good enough for Conquer. He's been really strong on the brakes into the NASCAR chicane. Trent Dinkel is into the pits for his pit stop. Are these two guys going to try and follow him?
We'll have to watch and see. And both of them down into the chicane.
If I'm Conquer, I'm going to come because I don't want to let Trent Dinkel get away any further, and he is.
Yep, Conquer pits. So the 54 is in, the 501 is in, but 46 stays out. Looks like O'Brien in the 9 stays out. Matthew Long is in. Hudson stays out. Josh Daniel pits.
Yeah, absolutely. So quite a few drivers doing a good job to come into the pits and cover off our leader, Trent Dinkel. Richard Riga Jr. and James O'Brien staying out, though. And their pace has not been super great late on in this run, so very interesting. Dinkel with a 14.6 second stop, Conquer with a 14.4 second stop. Both of them exactly at the same times on the lane, though, a 34.1.
It's hard to get out of this lane. In the meantime, though, drivers trying not to hit that wall on their way out, but fresh tires should hopefully help that. So here we...
Oh no, Conquer locks up the tires into the horseshoe. He's now come back out and didn't hit the grass, but he lost probably 3 seconds doing that.
Oof. And that's going to abuse the tires yet again. This time the fronts for that 54. Now through the Western Horseshoe as he got it under control from here. Looking a little better that time all the way around. Still the second highest driver to have pitted.
He's about, he lost about 2 seconds in that braking maneuver. He's about 20 seconds behind Dinkel at this point. So the real story is going to be whether or not he can get past Richard Riga Jr. there in the pits, or whether or not he's going to have to challenge him on track.
Yeah, and I got to think that we're going to see the 46 pit in. Yep, he is in. O'Brien trying to follow. Or is he? No. The 9 stays out. Ooh, okay. Fascinating stuff here. Trent Dinkel will not inherit the lead back yet. Chris Hudson pits in. We're waiting on Charles Sumner and Taylor Burris to take stops, other than James O'Brien, who is maybe trying to just go a little long here.
Yeah, but I'm not sure what benefit it's going to give him aside from fresher tires for the end of the race. I mean, yeah, that's going to help you, but the only person he's fighting with is Richard Riga Jr. Richard Riga came in now to do the undercut, so James O'Brien's going to have to pass him back on track on merit towards the end of this race, because the undercut's going to be strong, Joe. We're looking at, oh man, we're looking at quite quick lap times out of those who have pitted.
Absolutely. So these extra laps spent on those old tires will definitely come back to haunt you even though you're going to have fresher tires than your rivals towards the end of the race. O'Brien only about 3.8 seconds ahead of Dinkel. So even if he did stay out, he'll definitely be caught. And we're understanding the 20 had a problem recently because he's got a meatball flag. Trying to check and see where exactly he got that.
Very interesting to see a meatball flag on a road course possibly hit the outside wall coming out of the Le Mans chicane.
Well, no, he hit a wall coming out of the pits, but it's not the one you think. Look at this. I've never seen somebody hit that wall exiting pit lane before.
I mean,
that is the first.
I mean, I've done it, but that's when I was looking at my black box. I mean, I wasn't too proud of it either. Yeah, that's not a great look.
So that's what sent him back in. And O'Brien pits now. There's another look at that incident. That is a strange one.
And Richard Riga Jr.'s got traffic coming out of the NASCAR chicane, so this is going to hold him up as O'Brien's in the pits. Now, O'Brien missed his box a little bit.
Oh, so yet more time lost. I think Conker's going to be past O'Brien here. Yeah. O'Brien's still stationary. By goes Conker. He's up onto the podium now. James will have slightly fresher tires. 14.3 second stop. That's a very good stop there for O'Brien. In fact, very consistent across the board for everybody. As here you see O'Brien exiting. Matthew Long was going to pass him, but he went wide down into turn 1, so the 28 stays P5. A position lost for James O'Brien in that pit stop exchange. What's going on with the 57?
Semke spun around.
This is out of the NASCAR chicane. I think the curbs got him. The turtles bit once again.
Yeah, this is something that can happen quite easily if you mistime your braking a little bit or get a little bit too far to the inside on that first curve. Look at the front end of that machine. Zemke has definitely seen better days.
So right now we're watching Pat Harvey up to 8th, trying to keep ahead of Goodell. Pat started this race in 9th position, and Ryan started P5, so Goodell has been moving backwards. In fact, I want to say he was involved in some of those opening incidents, was the 14. So we come back onto the oval once again.
Absolutely, Goodell with a decent run trying to catch up to the back of Pat Harvey. Harvey just trying to hang on right now. Goodell was faster by a second last lap over Harvey. It looks like they're relatively even on pace now that Harvey's not having that issue. Interesting line from Harvey onto the back straight. Now, a lot earlier braking than Goodell into the Le Mans chicane, and not a super stellar line out, so that could be where he's losing his time.
This is good stuff here as they find themselves coming back onto the oval. Still, it's separated quite significantly up at the front of the field. Dinkel leads by 11 seconds, nearly 12, honestly, over Regan Jr. Conker has managed to get into 3rd and is trying to do his best to chip away at the 46's lead. And O'Brien's down to 4th, 7 more seconds back into the first corner. They go once again. It's a nice little mid-pack battle. Oh, and over to Taylor Burst. Did we get another issue here for him? Oh, he found the tire barrier. Oh, and this is Richard Regan Jr. The 46 into the tires himself at the Western Horseshoe. And Josh Conker looks like he's about to be gifted a 2nd place.
Yes, he is. He's able to get the power down as well onto the banking. So, heartbreak for Richard Regan Jr., but he's right on the back of Conker. He might try to challenge him into Le Mans chicane.
The good news is he did not touch the wall, just found himself off into the grass. Should still have decent pace here as long as he didn't overheat the tires. He gathers up the rear bumper of the 54 and then elects not to overtake.
So Conker's not free and clear quite yet. Oh no, mistake from Richard Regan again.
Oh, did he get the curbs there, or was that a slowdown?
Nah, slid the tires, almost hit the outside wall, Joe.
So twice in one lap, it seems things are looking troubling for Richard Regan Jr., and he regroups to try and find himself. Now that that has spread apart, I wonder if we have a chance to try and see Taylor Burris' incident in the 40 coming down into turn 6, as he did make contact with the wall. Here we go. Let's watch the purple machine just send it a little hot. And unfortunately, it was not willing to slow up in time.
Yeah, just took it too hot into the corner. Tried to apply the brakes. Just was locked up at that point. Nothing he could do. It seems so pedantic, but it's actually really easy to do if you're not careful.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've done it in cars that are a lot better at braking than this one. And it's a little embarrassing, but it happens. And unfortunately, you just kind of got to deal with it and get back out there and try and pick up what time you lost, as Burris still running in the 13th position currently with 15 to go. That's going to feel like an eternity from here for these drivers who have already put plenty of wear on those tires and essentially have to gut it out with what they still have underneath them from here. Jose Medina with another stop. I'm not sure if this is scheduled.
I would guess not. Look at all the front end damage for Jose Medina, so possibly trying to get some damage repaired. Now, it's a black flag for Jose, so he must have run afoul of the incident limit. Now, one thing I've been keeping my eyes on, Josh Conker and Trent Dinkle. Trent Dinkle's starting to put out faster laps than Josh Conker now, so that's pretty much ended Josh Conker's challenge attempt. And we've had a wreck in the Le Mans Horseshoe. This was Lou Christensen and Matthew Long who got together. Christensen trying to get himself recovered. This is a lapped car versus a lead lapped car.
And I'm not sure if there was contact. Let's take a look at it, though. Yeah, I think Christian did this all on his own. He's on the outside. Yeah.
Wow.
Broke loose. Wow, that was a lucky escape. Very lucky, because that car swung right in front of him.
All right, taking a look at this one more time. Riding on board. Let's see how this looked. Yo. Yep.
Couple inches
Long
to spare.
Yeah, but I mean, Long was totally in control of that. He was slowing down at the same pace as Christian. I mean, that was a very good move from Long there to realize what was about to happen. I mean, I'm sure when he was on the brakes on the inside there, he was thinking to himself, there's no way he's making that corner.
So, as we took a look at Conker there briefly, he's ahead of Regan Jr., who is continuing to lose a little bit of time each lap. Conker is looking like he might actually be staying equal with the 5:01. I'm looking at the lap times here, and he's lost a little on some of these laps, but in general, it seems like the 54 is matching the pace of Dinkle. His best hope is getting some sort of mistake out of Trent before these 14 laps are up.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, Dinkle's been so smooth, and even a mistake like a slide isn't going to bring Conker into battle. I think Trent's going to have to turn himself around in order for Conker to have an opportunity. And Conker picking this up from an EOL penalty, I mean, really impressive for sure.
You're the one that said it, not me. I've done that enough times that I'm not going to curse somebody that way. That having to mention that they need a spin to lose it. As we come down into the braking for the NASCAR chicane, Daniels versus Hudson. We watched this before, and they're coming up on Carlos Romero. The 4 is going to be lapped, so that's not 4th position. We're actually already down to 12 drivers left on the lead lap. There have been so many issues out there. The leaders have just been flying by all the drivers that don't seem to have a knack for this one.
And Hudson getting held up a little bit by Romero, who stays to the inside, which Hudson was very confused about himself, so lost a little bit of time. Now, just behind them, Pat Harvey and Ryan Goodell are nose to tail as well, and Goodell absolutely putting pressure on Harvey now. He's closed that gap very quickly.
Nicely done there from Ryan. Not too shocking considering he qualified in 5th, so we kind of knew that he had something underneath him. But now he's got to try and get by, which hasn't looked to be too ridiculously difficult. If you've got the pace, most drivers have been able to do something to try and attack and get through. Speaking of which, here we go. Hudson has been hounding that number 77 lap after lap. Now he comes off onto the oval portion, but it's not a good enough run.
And Goodell just made the pass on Harvey, a late braking maneuver onto the final corner of the infield. So Goodell with a nice move on Harvey there.
All right, up into P8 for Goodell. Next one up the road, unfortunately, 11 seconds to Chris Hudson. That's going to be a difficult one for him from here as we jump up to those two. Hudson chasing Daniels out onto the banking of NASCAR 3 and 4. Don't think he's close enough that we'll see anything this time.
No, Hudson has not been able to affect this pass. He's been trying for about 20 laps now and can't seem to get by Daniels. This has got to be really frustrating for him because he is quicker on raw pace than Daniels, but it seems like when he gets tucked in behind, he has an issue. It looks like Papadow's back down pit lane.
Wonder if he's also split it into thirds. In spite of this all, we've only lost 3 cars. Baron Hilton is out of it, Waldo Walton and Mike Witt. So 20 cars are still running currently. Skip Gandy is the last amongst them in 21st.
And 16 on the lead lap as Papineau gets lapped by our leader Trent Enkel, who is still 16 seconds ahead of Josh Conker, and with only 12 laps left, I don't see Josh making it up there. And you're worried about the commentator's curse, but I was careful to say that Josh Conker needs a spin to win the race.
So we see Conker rolling in second. Let's see if his racing has changed here on the second part, because this has been a driver that has been sawing at the wheel a lot. Ooh, who was that we just saw? Not sure who that was off to the side of the track trying to rejoin.
That was Taylor Burris.
Oh, another problem for Taylor.
He absolutely missed his braking point for the Le Mans chicane and hit one of the tire barriers that divides the track and blew his engine.
Oh, this is not good here. Whoa! Did he hit the wall there? Did we see Conker brush the outside as he came off the chicane? Because he certainly had to try and wheel his way past that lap traffic. That was the 8 of McDonald's.
No, he did not hit the wall. Just barely dodged it, but that definitely brings Richard Regan Jr. Richard Regan's been staying in contact with Josh Conker. He's still only a second back. We're watching Josh. You can see how focused he is. And there is Richard Regan clinging to the back of Josh Conker. He's not done with the second place yet.
But let's ride for a bit, because I've been wanting to see if his steering is any smoother now that he's been able to take pit stops. Let's listen in.
Ooh.
No, yeah, he's...
Oh, man.
Wow.
Oh, man. No, Conker is on it. You can see he's a little frustrated, especially because Richard Regan Jr. with it striking distance 3/10 behind now.
Absolutely, and a wipe of the brow even. It's not often that we even see this sort of thing get to Josh Conker. Usually he's a very cool driver, and I'm getting the sense that he's starting to feel it, and he can see it even as behind we see that number 46 get closer and closer. Don't need to go to it. Romero had a spin. The number 4 is able to keep going. That happened in turn 6.
Richard Regan putting a lot of pressure on Conker. Did Conker break too late this time around? The answer is no. He hangs on to it. Richard Regan a little bit shallow on the entry of the NASCAR chicane. Clips one of the sausage curves. That's going to lose him about 3 or 4 tenths.
Yeah, he unfortunately had to get out of the gas there. And there you can see the visible difference that it made. Just the smallest of touches, too. Barely got it. And look at those brakes light up as well as they fly down into the corner. You can tell just how heavy these cars are as they slam on the binders, and they just absolutely light up each and every time. There they are, glowing on the inside.
Yeah, fortunately, newer brakes for these guys this season that are quite a bit better than the old ones. But that being said, the tire difference kind of negates that. So you don't have as flexible of a tire, which means that you have more of a chance to slide the rear tires on downshifts and also slide the rear tires on exits. And so all of that benefit that they gained as Richard Regan slides it himself coming off at the corner, all the benefit they gained from the new car kind of is negated by the new tire model, the not the new tire model, but the new tire compound that Goodyear's given them for the season.
And of these two, it is Regan who really has skin in the game. Conker's down in 11th here at this stage. He's way, way down in the hunt on the championship. So Regan needs this position to try and do what he can to keep up with the likes of O'Brien and Acosta. O'Brien still one position behind Regan right now. There's another mistake, though, and that's definitely a cut course penalty for the 46 car.
It was a miracle he hung on to that thing. Usually you don't survive that kind of a mistake through the Le Mans chicane. But that's, I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to end his challenge on Josh Conker, because Josh might relax a little bit and make another mistake himself. But Richard's now 2 seconds back. He's going to have to claw back that second and a half he just lost.
You know, if I were to say, offer advice or tips for those coming in after watching this race, to me, Adam, it seems like limit mistakes is the big key. Those who are farther up ahead have had a lot fewer.
Oh yeah, those drivers who have been racing with me on the Friday Camel races know that that's what I need to work on. You limit mistakes, you're going to have a good race. It really doesn't matter how fast you're going. Other people will make mistakes, and if you make none, you're going to improve positions. It's just the nature of the game. And so the more you can minimize the mistakes that you're making, the more you can avoid contact with the cars around you and minimize those wheel slips and minimize those spins, the better you're going to be doing on track.
Medina once again staying off to the right-hand side as they break into the International Horseshoe. We've come over here to Daniels and Hudson. Josh has been doing his darndest to keep Chris at bay, and he's been doing a good job at it, admittedly, because he's not been able to get by. But this has been a bit of a disappointing day for the driver, third in the points, only a sixth out there, and he's going to lose valuable points to the driver behind him in the championship, Richard Regan.
Yeah, absolutely. So Chris Hudson, he's been about here this entire race. We've been watching this battle off and on throughout the entire race. Can he get a good exit this time? It's so squirrely for both drivers, but Daniels just seems to have a little bit more traction coming onto the banking.
And that seems to be making the difference, because as they start to pick up speed, it's heavy braking down into the Le Mans chicane, and just a little bit of a poke to the left-hand side. Hudson making sure that red 77 knows he's there.
Very much to the exterior of the track for Chris Hudson, trying to maximize his ability to get through the Le Mans chicane as best as he can. Unfortunately, just not close enough, and this is the place where you make the pass. I mean, he keeps taking these looks to the inside, but Daniels knows he's too far back.
And Byron McDonald has been trying to get out of the way of various drivers. He's also been quite courteous out there, which has been honestly critical for some of them, because Long has been trying to catch up to O'Brien for the 4th spot. And there you see, going across the start-finish line, that was Medina, as we now head over to the 28 of Long. He's within 1.5 seconds. Last lap for O'Brien of 58.4. Long 57.9.
Yeah, so 5/10 right there for Long over O'Brien. So he's definitely gaining on O'Brien on that last lap. Long might have a good opportunity to pass him before this race is over. We're at 7 laps to go now.
Braking hard down into turn 6. Matthew Long qualified 4th, sitting 5th position. Wants to get back to at least breaking even on this race, I'm sure. But up to 1.7 seconds, lost a little time now over the last few corners. Who has got the stuff underneath him from here to be able to be strong to the finish?
It's going to be very, very interesting. Oh, Long with a mistake, actually. Long made a mistake through the chicane, through the Le Mans chicane. And that's going to drop him back. Though. I mean, he definitely did. This could have been a disaster, but unfortunately just fell too far back. Hudson, though, with his best run out of the Le Mans chicane himself, a little squirrely through gear 4. If he wants to try it, this is the moment, I think.
He's looking for it. He might try it. This is a good chance, and no, the car starts to squirm underneath him as he brakes. He goes back into the line, so that wasn't it.
Oh, man, Hudson saw Daniels lose traction as he was shifting up from 2nd, tried to power it down in 3rd, and lost traction himself. These tires so worn out by the end of this race. Hudson absolutely pushing as hard as he can, and Daniels starting to show cracks a little bit in his defense.
Indeed, and I'll tell you one driver that's been using the experience on the roadside well, I'd say, is Charles Sumner. He's been racing over in many of the Road Series recent seasons here in the PRL, and he's sitting in 11th, just outside of the top 10. Unfortunately, he's got 18 seconds up to Zemke. It's a long ways to the next spot.
Yeah, but fortunately for him, Zemke's made 3 mistakes this race so far. So he's got a mistake-prone driver ahead of him, and he's just crossing his fingers that Zemke's going to make probably another 1 or 2 over the next, 6 laps after he crosses the line here, and have an opportunity to get up there in the top 10.
Yeah, we've seen him in the Ferrari Challenge, and we've seen him in the GT-AM category. Charles Sumner in that number 98 has been making the rounds, and now he's been carrying over the experience. So 6 laps to go now. Regan, has he gained? He's gained any of it? He's still at about 2 seconds here. Let me check the times.
No, it's been pretty steady between the two of them. It's give or take 1/10 or 2 every lap, but Richard Regan Jr. can't seem to hold whenever he breaks into the 2-second mark.
It's been unfortunate. So we've been getting a lot of cloud cover in the second half of this race, I've noticed. The temperatures have actually gone down. Oh, Hudson has a problem. Unfortunately, his braking.
This was a bad one.
Yeah, these turtle curbs. Well, the European drivers already know why they can be bad news, and Chris Hudson is getting a very upfront lesson of why they're starting to phase those out across the ponds. Watch this.
Hard on the brakes, rear comes out from under him, and look at that. Almost flips the car over. That's exactly what the European drivers are also concerned about the turtle curves. They've seen them flip cars before, and look how close he gets to flipping. If he wouldn't have touched that inside turtle curb again, he would have been over.
Yeah, it's launched cars into fencing, and at times multiple feet into the air. So Chris, unfortunately, turning the oval into the rallycross course for a moment here today as the 43 falls about 5 seconds behind Josh Daniels. Hopefully the car not too damaged from that. And now that they do have a diffuser on the car, he has to make sure that the underside stays nice and tidy.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of that being an issue. We saw it in the majors race that was at Daytona, but if you get hung up here on the, if you get caught between the apron and the track in the banking here at the Daytona Oval, you'll see they get hung up on the diffuser, and I think we're going to see a lot of teams in the real life race having to change out that diffuser after incidents.
In fact, we even saw a case where a driver low centered it on the banking, trying to get back onto the circuit, and had to take a tow because he was stuck. As last time across, Conquer 57.9, Regan 57.7. He's getting on the horse again. 5 to go, but 0.2 a lap might not do it.
No, it won't do it. He'll be 1 lap shy, but Conquer locking up the right front tire going into the horseshoe. Richard Regan Jr. lighting up the rear tires coming out of the horseshoe. These two guys are absolutely pushing. Richard Regan needs better than 0.2. He needs about 0.3 a lap just to get to the back of Josh Conquer by the end of this race.
All right, who has got the stuff here? Coming out of the Western Horseshoe, I saw another tail wag out of Richard Regan Jr., but no matter, he's got it down to 1 second. He does look nice and quick this time through. That was a big gain through the infield. Conquer is starting to feel it a little bit as they fly along the oval through NASCAR 1 and 2. Richard Regan Jr. might be able to feel a little bit of those slipstream effects.
Oh, yes, he is. Josh Conquer got a better exit, but Richard Regan Jr. picked up that slipstream and has gained about 1/10 in the slipstream alone. And through the infield, that was about 6/10 that Richard Regan had, but he took a little bit of a shallow line through the first Le Mans chicane. Fortunately, he dodged the he dodged the turtle curve that's on the inside of the exit of the chicane. So Richard Regan Jr. absolutely putting pressure on. They've got a lap car they gotta have to deal with, and we've seen Conquer struggle with lap cars through this corner before.
The thing that amazes me about these stock cars is they do what?
Oh no!
Whoa,
Regan clipped the inside turtle curve there.
Just about chucked it into the wall with that. Thankfully, he caught it in time, but time is more lost now than anything as he falls away from Conquer. And that might have sealed the deal, or unless lap traffic comes to his aid. Skip Gandy trying to stay out from Josh Conquer, and that may have slowed him up slightly. I was gonna say there, Adam, it amazes me that these stock cars, we usually see them doing roughly about 200 when they're running the oval, and somehow coming off of turn 6, I just saw Regan Jr. get up to almost 190 by the time he hit the brakes coming down into the Le Mans chicane. That is amazing that they can get that fast that quickly.
Doesn't actually surprise me though, because of the increased horsepower that they put into these machines towards the end of testing that we now have updated on these cars. And what we have going on is they're not running the I forgot what it was called, like an air limiter. There's some sort of device that they're using. It's not a restrictor plate, but it achieves a similar objective, that the oval cars are running on the Daytona oval track. The NASCAR Next Gen cars are running on the Daytona track, and so that's why we see, oh boy, Richard Regan closing in again on Skip Gandy. He's gonna have to get by him, and he's held up through NASCAR chicane. So I think that's Josh Conquer sold on that second position, barring a mistake.
Yeah, and Skip's letting him know to go underneath. Just stays up high. Nicely done. So Richard Regan Jr. is through, but it's up to 1.7 second. And it's going to be 3 to go. Yeah, 3 to go now as Dinkel has just crossed the line. Still, I think everybody who sees the checkered flag today needs a pat on the back. I cannot stress enough to our audience just how tough it is racing these stock cars here at this road course. And Dinkel might make it look easy, but it is anything but.
No, this is a real challenge, and these tires are absolutely shot for everybody at this point. We've got 3 to go, and everyone's just trying to survive at this point. All of our battles have separated out. The closest battle is, quite frankly, the one between Conquer and Richard Regan Jr., and that's now 2 seconds. So it actually goes back to Matthew Long, who's trying to gain on James O'Brien and is still about 2 seconds behind as well.
I'm trying to recall now, too. Wasn't Dinkel the one, I'm pretty certain, that won the last race in the Gen 6 Cup car here in the PRL at the end of Season 4? I'm pretty certain. I think that was at Homestead. And he's looking to get another victory pretty soon. And the new Cup car, the next gen now, if he can just keep this up a little bit longer. I'll have to check his stats too to see if it's his second victory ever, if he's got more than that. If it's only his second, this is going to be a special day for the 501.
Yeah, absolutely. The 501 has just been the class of the field today so far, but we can't speak too soon. These cars are way too challenging. I'm trying to drop a commentator's curse on this man right now. But, I mean, honestly, he's run that Napa paint scheme, and he has looked like Chase Elliott today out there.
Oh, absolutely. Just untouchable on the road side of things for sure. And he's another one.
Richard Jr. just hit the outside wall coming into the NASCAR chicane and completely blows it. That's going to put him with a major time penalty and with right side damage.
It's kind of been unfolding in these last few laps here for Richard Regan. He's been watching it get worse and worse, just snowballing for him. As
Conker makes a mistake through one.
Yeah, both of them are struggling. Conker could not get it woed up into turn one, goes very wide, and somehow in all of this, Regan actually gained time.
Such fascinating stuff right now. I mean, it's coming down to the mistakes that's going to make it. Who's got the car left? Richard Regan Jr. within a second and a half. Matthew Long now within a second almost of James O'Brien as well. So these two battles for for second and for fourth starting to heat up right at the end here, and they've got traffic to deal with too.
You reminded me too, talking about Trent Dinkle looking like Chase Elliott. That Dinkle actually has been another one that's been running on the roadside here in the PRL. So even more, I suppose, than Charlie Sumner. He's been getting lots and lots of experience that has paid huge dividends and has just been dominating here today, leading every lap of the race except for the pit stop sequence. And coming down through NASCAR 3 and 4, trying to line up the braking. He's going to get the white flag this time by. It is an impressive 18 seconds. He is just about half a second a lap faster on average, as he has a little slip up coming out of the chicane.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's still pushing it pretty hard right now. He's still running. I mean, he ran out 57.9 last lap versus Conker's 57.4, but that's nothing to sneeze at considering James O'Brien's running a 58.5. So, I mean, Dinkle's still flying.
Just reminds me too of Michael Johnson, one of the drivers here in our commentary team, races in IMSA and SRO. I asked him if he'd ever, moonlighted as a road ringer on the NASCAR side. Said he almost got the chance once. I'd love to see him give a shot at this, be able to be put in one of these cars and try it here on the NASCAR road course.
Take a look at this. The 9 really under pressure from Long, who's really closing the gap now to the 9. This is for 4th position between these two. We'll have to keep our eyes on this as Trent Dinkle continues to circulate.
This has got to be a lot of pressure here on James O'Brien. Again, he's fighting for the championship, 6 points behind Acosta. He needs as many as he can get. He's already fallen off of the podium. Doesn't want to be slotted into 5th place and lose even more. And we've had a problem. Oh, Chris Hudson's in pit lane. That's not a black flag. He short-fueled it. Didn't put enough in. Unbelievable stuff here that is going to cost him in the end. He's already had some major errors at the end of this race, and now it has all gone to pot, unfortunately. Meanwhile, as Romero, well, he said he wanted him to go low. I don't know how low you can go here. He's going to allow him through. There we go. Okay, nicely done there from the 4. Thought we had a moment of drama, and thankfully, with no more corners to go, Trent Dinkle gets a victory in the Next Gen Cup car for the first time.
Fantastic drive from Dinkle. He was strong from qualifying all the way through the end of the race. Such a great, strong drive from Dinkle. I mean, unquestionably the class of the field today.
This is not over for those behind that are battling. Looks like Conker's going to get second. Regan Jr. will wind up third, but O'Brien has got to be safe here through the last chicane because Long is still breathing down his neck, and he sends it in deep. That was a Hail Mary. Unfortunately, that's not one that's going to win the Super Bowl, so Matthew Long finds himself settling for fifth.
Still got drivers on track. Joshua Daniels, another 15 seconds behind here. Goodell, 15 seconds back of that. Harvey, Chris Hudson, all still circulating. Adam Zemke has a long way to go. Zemke just now coming out of the infield. He's got to complete his lap.
Indeed, and unfortunately, though, there's nobody really in a battle. Harvey's almost able to chase down Goodell, but he's a full 2.5 seconds behind. And they've even got lap traffic between them, so that pretty much kills it with only 10 cars left on the lead lap after 23 started. That's going to take us to a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around.
Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced SimRacing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client. And like we did today, we install a D-box system. We install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much gonna be a turnkey. So he's gonna press start on his computer, and right after, we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware, and that's why we want to create something that's really going to reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
Welcome back to Daytona. After we just watched round 8 in the PRL NASCAR Cup Series, the NASCAR road course here at Daytona saw Trent Dinkel give a dominant performance. He finished with a win, but you gotta give credit to Conker. It may not have been the prettiest drive, but he went from 17th to 2nd today and salvaged his hopes of getting at least a good finish out of what was incredible pace. Richard Regan Jr. tried to chase him down, but himself couldn't keep the mistakes out and had to settle for P3, which will hurt him in trying to run away from James O'Brien Moore, who finished right behind him in 4th and outside of the podium. Matthew Long was P5. Then it was Josh Daniels in the 6th position. Ryan Goodell finished P7. Pat Harvey was 9th after Chris Hudson miscalculated on his fuel, we think twice, because he coasted to the line in the end in 9th, and last car on the lead lap was Zemke in 10th.
Then it's Charles Sumner, first car a lap down. Couldn't quite crack that top 10 today, with Brandon Walter in 12th position. Byron McDonald comes home in 13th position. Not a great finish for him, unfortunately, with Lou Christian in 14th after his incident with the outside wall, also only 1 lap down. Then we have Carlos Romero, first car 2 laps down, and Jose Medina 4 laps down. Skip Gandy is 5 laps down in the 17th spot, and Tom Massey in 18th, also 5 laps down. The rest of these drivers had significant issues, including Taylor Burris, Eric Papanow, Mike Witt, Waldo Walden, and Baron Hilton.
And we've got our winner ready to talk to us, Trent Dinkle, after taking another victory here in the PRL Cup Series. Trent, I have to say that time spent over on the Road Series, that seems to have paid big dividends.
Yeah, I guess that was a fun race. So I can't complain, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm glad you had fun out there. It looked like you didn't have much of a challenge from behind. I'm trying to recall, is this only your second ever win? I remember we seen you taking a victory over at Homestead last season.
It's my third. I won at Talladega last year, Talladega, Homestead, and then now. So, and after all of the absolutely terrible luck that I've had this season, I will definitely take it.
I can only imagine. What did it feel like on those older tires? We're watching so many drivers struggling out there, but your style looked smooth all throughout.
Yeah, I know. I think, honestly, I feel like I was probably the only person on iRacing, I feel like, this week that liked this car on the road course. And, a lot of people were messing around with trying first gear, and I just felt comfortable in second. And, as the tires went on, it kind of fell off, and then it stopped falling off, and then I was just kind of in a groove, and we were going. So.
Well, that groove netted you a win. Is there anybody that you want to shout out to or thank for that victory?
Well, first of all, thanks you guys for putting this on. It's always fun to go back and watch these. I know my parents are watching, so thank them for watching. And then I know we're not open yet, but big thanks to Makoni for picking me up for the foreseeable future. So, yeah.
Great stuff there from Trent Dinkle, our winner here today for round 8. Up next, I think Adam has caught up with Josh Conker.
Absolutely, Josh. I mean, what can I say about that race? 15 positions gained over the course of the race, starting with an EOL, a little bit of early contact on that first lap, but from that point on, you were absolutely flying today. Talk to me about your race.
Yeah, overall, it was a really good race. I really like road course racing. I'm very much like Abner. Love my road racing. So looking forward to the race. Unfortunately, I did have an EOL just from some contact there at North Wilkesboro because I missed last week, unfortunately, due to my own racing. But yeah, good race. We had really good pace. I feel like if I was allowed to qualify and we didn't have that contact there early in the race, that I would have been able to give Trent a really good run for his money.
Yeah, it sure looked like you had the measure on Trent as far as lap pace was concerned, but Trent was very smooth in keeping the tires healthy. Talk to me about that, because it didn't seem like the tire wear was an issue, but y'all were burning up those things over the course of this race. How hard was it to keep the car straight today?
Yeah, tire wear wasn't it didn't fall off really aggressively like we saw at Gateway, where the tire was done in 30 laps. The tire still had about 91, 92% at the end of the stint. It just felt really awful after like 5 laps. The tire just it felt like it fell off a cliff. It was really, really hard to manage. Having that left front damage did not help any. I was having to kind of drive the tire a little harder than I want to kind of keep the pace, because I'd lose 0.2 or so in the oval. But yeah, really difficult just to keep the tire under you. The car's got so much power, and with the 5-speed sequential, you do have more gears to choose from, but there's a lot of bottom end torque there in all 5.
Yeah, absolutely. And towards the end of that race, I mean, like once you passed Richard Vegan, and you were gaining on him quite quickly, but once you passed him, he seemed to hang on to you and put a little pressure on you. What were you feeling in those closing laps of the race there?
Yeah, Rich did really good. He found a lot of pace there towards the end of the first stint and into the second stint. I was just kind of after I got around Rich, I'm like, okay, I can't catch anyone else. There's no point like over driving. So I was just trying to keep the tires under me and just kind of preserve everything just in case Rich did make it and have an attack. But yeah, it was difficult. My left foot was getting very sore from pushing the brake pedal all race. It was very stiff. So yeah, I just trying to keep the tires under me there just in case.
Absolutely. Well, Josh, is there anyone you want to thank for that second place finish? I mean, it was quite a drive today.
Yeah, of course, I'd like to thank everyone at Private Label Team Hype, our sponsors, Private Label Ethica, Tommy, Ty, James, Rich, Brandon, Taylor. Wish Abner was here. I'm sure our road course ringer there would have put a beating on the field as usual, but thankful he wasn't here. I'd like to congratulate Trent on his win. You drove great today. I'd like to thank you guys for the broadcast and my personal sponsor, Lone Palm Sign.
Well, thanks for talking to us, Josh, and we look forward to seeing you next week at, back here. That was Josh Conker, who finished in second position, and it looks like Joe Peak has caught up with our third place runner, Richard Regan Jr.
And Richard gave us lots to look at out there today, whether it was battling with James O'Brien, Richard, or with Josh Conker. It seemed like you were never short of some fun.
I guess fun's a way to describe how that race went. The car is definitely not fun. I'm really hoping with this build in a couple weeks that iRacing gets their stuff together and gives us a drivable car, because this thing's ridiculous.
It looked like a big handful on the road courses for sure. Talk about what the car felt like as the tires got older, because I was talking to Trent and how things seemed to really go out from underneath you quite quickly. He was very smooth. You and Josh seemed to be constantly having to wheel it.
Yeah, well, hats off to Trent. He definitely put the work in this week. He ran almost every day. But yeah, I think the biggest problem with this car is the tire model that's on it. When they made this tire model, it was for the smaller rim, and I think with the bigger rim and the left sidewall, the car just constantly slips traction for no reason almost, and yeah, it's just very sketchy.
Regardless, you managed to pull a third place out of it. Are you looking forward to the Super Speedway race, Daytona's other track here as we come back next week? It's always a little bit of a crapshoot when you go to a Super Speedway, so might not be all that much better.
I'm gonna be missing next week, so but if I was racing, I definitely would be looking forward to Daytona. I'm pretty good at Super Speedways. Last year we had a really dominating performance for our 500. But yeah, hopefully the team gets a good result next week.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, sounds like that'll be your drop week for this season. But for a podium today, is there anybody you want to thank?
Yeah, everyone on Private Label Team Hype, Ethica, Haley Street Creations, Private Label, Neonism Paints, Jay-Z Racing Photos, you guys at GSRC, and everyone at PRL.
That was Richard Regan Jr., our third place finisher for round 8. And that's going to wrap up our interviews. But before we go, of course, we got a few thank yous to dole out, including our sponsor, the Majors Garage. Make sure and click our link in the description below. They'll take you right to fantastic telemetry coaching and more, as we also have a discount code that if you use Majors GSRC, you'll get 10% off. Thanks to ASR, they design and build the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com. Also, RaceLab. It helps you to improve your driving skills. Start using it now for free at RaceLab.app. And ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing at thebuttkicker.com. And finally, NinjaTrader. Visit NinjaTrader.com and get started with a risk-free trading simulator to start tracking your performance. Thanks goes to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Check out her Bandcamp for more great work. Thanks to the team today, Adam, Zach, and Dougie. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media. Check out our merchandise store where I got the chance. It's gsrc.storenvy.com. There's also another link in the description below for that one. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. The next race, as we mentioned, comes right back here to Florida at the Daytona Super Speedway on the oval this time. Sunday, February 20th is when that happens at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, but we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out, mark them down on your calendar. And until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.